Mm-hmm. Let's talk about a little bit of NFL. For wide receivers, now this has absolutely nothing to do with who's the better wide receiver. But if you had a choice for 2024, who will have the better year? Tyreek Hill or Justin Jefferson? Flash, you go first.
I think this is an easy one. I think it's going to be Tyreek Hill just because he's got the offense surrounding him and the quarterback. Um, we don't even know really who the Minnesota quarterback is going to be. I mean, we have an idea, but I just based off of what off of paper, it's going to be Tyreek Hill. I mean, Justin Jefferson is still going to put up his numbers because he is that good. Like let's make no mistake about this. He doesn't need a quarterback to put up numbers, to put up elite all pro wide receiver numbers. He is that guy. But I just think overall Tyreek's going to have the better year. If you give Justin Jefferson legit stability at quarterback, I'd be all about Justin Jefferson. But not this year. If McCarthy is something legit, great. But right now I think it's a pretty simple answer. I think it's Tyreek Hill.
BRF, man.
I think even if you give Justin Jefferson stability at quarterback, I'm still going to go Tyreek Hill. Just from the standpoint, he just from the standpoint he's got guys with him to where you can't double him. With a guy like Jalen Waddle, with the kind of running game they have with Raheem Mostert and Devin Achane, with that kind of running game. And okay, so Odell Beckham isn't what he used to be. Odell Beckham at the 3 in the slot is still better than most slots. So I mean, he's got guys you can't double anybody. And I'm the most impossible matchup in the National Football League, regardless of position, as a corner trying to guard Tyreek Hill 1-on-1. It's just no, you don't because his route running is underrated. His route running is really good, and the fact that he's probably the fastest wide receiver in the National League, I think he is the fastest receiver in the National Football League. Not even probably.
Yeah.
Still
And
is.
yeah, so I mean, it's like I think. I know the one thing we always go back to is Tua Tagovailoa and what he's going to do, how consistent he's going to continue to be. Can he still keep putting up these numbers? But I just feel like Tyreek Hill for Tua has just been like the ultimate security blanket, just from the standpoint that it's like normally you say this with like 6'3", 6'4" guys. Like, well, hey, when all else fails, just throw it up. You got Tyreek Hill, who's like 5 whatever. Nah, just throw it up. You can't you'll never overshoot him on the throw. Just throw it
His
up. Long as
vertical
you lead
game
him,
is
he's gonna run.
insane.
He's gonna get it. He's gonna take. Yeah, exactly. And that, yeah, oh my God, yeah, just throw it up to him. He's gonna get it. And if he gets it, God help you in the secondary because there's no tackling that man in the upper field once he gets ahead of steam. He's that good. He's that elite and that just rare after the catch. So I think even with a stable quarterback, I'm gonna go Tyreek Hill over Justin Jefferson. Although I feel like Justin Jefferson, I said in a previous podcast, is one of my like, this is one of those like, okay, you were really good with Kirk Cousins. We're not saying Kirk Cousins was like elite of the elite, but he's a top 12 quarterback in the National Football League. And you've had him for these years and you put up numbers. The great quarterbacks, no, wide receivers have shown, regardless of who their quarterback is, they're going to go out and they're going to produce. Like Tyreek Hill went from Patrick Mahomes to Tua, still producing. Devontae Adams went from Green Bay, went to Vegas, still producing. So I mean, I think this is Justin Jefferson's year to really show that. Do I think he's going to? Yeah, because come on, man. Flash is right. Justin Jefferson is that guy. He is that good. But I just feel like Tyreek Hill, like right now, is just he's just operating on a different level with his speed, his hands, his ability to get away from secondaries and blow the top off defenses. He's just operating in a different tier right now. So I'm taking Tyreek Hill regardless of what the stability is for Justin Jefferson as a quarterback.
I actually don't. As much as I would have said, I don't disagree with you actually at all. I really don't. I think you made some great points. Tyreek Hill is a different animal. Like Tyreek Hill is like if you took Deshaun Jackson, Steve Smith, and Dante Hall, and they all had a baby somehow, and that's what came out, and then make him a little.
And then you gave him Randy Moss's vert.
Yeah. And he's a little faster than I don't know if he's faster than Moss, but he's probably he's close. It's a debate. Like Prime Moss,
I'll say he's faster than Moss.
Prime Moss,
dude. Yeah. I'll say he's faster than Prime Moss. I don't think that's crazy to say.
I don't think it's crazy. I just think Prime Moss was like 98 to 2002 Moss of because Moss is a low 4.2, and so is Tyreek. Tyreek's that. I'll put this way. You're right. Tyreek's that Dion speed. There's a difference, and there's that extra gear that they can tap into. Bo Jackson had that extra just like they're running a 4.2 normally, but for some reason they can get those extra RPMs and extra gear and just go. And Tyreek Hill does have that. And so maybe he is faster than Prime Moss.
Because even I feel like seeing Tyreek Hill just the eye test. If we're giving Randy Moss like 4.2s, I think Tyreek Hill is like a 4.15. I mean, he just looks that fast.
That could just be of length of legs. Because you look at Eric Dickerson, the way he used to run back in the 80s, and he looked like running slow, but he was running like 4.3s, high 4.2s. Like he was a Olympic track star. So but Tyreek's got that little quick leg scatter almost or scamper.
Mm-hmm. For what I'm gonna go with Tyreek. It's a no-brainer. I don't understand. Flash BRF, help me explain with the JJ McCarthy. Why did the Vikings move up that in the draft just to take him 9th or 10th overall? Look, the only concern I have with Miami is Tua's health. If Tua can stay healthy, I still believe that look, if Tua's healthy, Tyreek's gonna put up crazy numbers, and of course Miami, they're loaded, with Waddle, with Mostert, Mike McDaniel. Even though there are questions about his decision making in pivotal situations, he is a good offensive mind. But when you look at Minnesota, okay, there's T.J. Hutchinson. They just got Aaron Jones. But do you really trust the quarterbacks there in Minnesota? They have J.J. McCarthy. Justin Jefferson is still going to give you his numbers. But explain to me, why did the Vikings get J.J. McCarthy? It don't make sense to me.
Honestly, I don't know. I just think, I don't know. I never saw the hype that JJ McCarthy was getting. I personally didn't see it. Yeah. Sorry, daughter. Okay. Yeah, but no, I just never I never really understood the hype with JJ McCarthy. I don't still. There are some good things that he can do, his moving out of the pocket. I mean, better arm than I had probably given him credit for, prior to last college football season. But even still, I don't know. Well, but I mean, he's got a shot to prove a lot of people wrong. So we'll just see. When we get into training camp, when we get into preseason, he's gonna get snaps. He's gonna get an opportunity to showcase himself and try to prove why he should be the starting quarterback. He's gonna get an opportunity, but I don't know. I just never. I'll put it to you this. I'll put it to you like this. I was a way bigger Michael Penix fan than I was a JJ McCarthy fan. I'll say that much.
So I guess I'm the island boy in this one. I'm a McCarthy guy. I think he was picked too high. I think that's the issue with with a lot of the quarterbacks in the first round this year is the run with like Nix, McCarthy, and Penix. I think they all were picked too high. If McCarthy goes in the late first, second round, I don't think anybody's like upset. I think even Penix, if Atlanta picks him in the second round, nobody's really that upset. I like McCarthy. He was coached by one of the better NFL coaches that we've had in the last 20, 30 years. He was in a pro style ish offense. He does have the arm strength. He can escape the pocket, which is kind of the game that you need right now. So he's going to be a little bit ahead of the game when it comes to that. But it's not saying that he's like week one ready, but I think we've kind of all like sussed this out in the last a couple months. We've been doing this a little bit. Is we like franchises to sit their quarterbacks. So I think you can argue that he was drafted too early, but I think he's in the right spot, and I think they sit him for half a year, a whole year, and I think you're going to have a really good quarterback on your hands that knows how to win too.
True.
So, and you give him the best weapon in the league, arguably. So he's set up to succeed for the most part, as long as you put an offensive line in front of him, like every other quarterback. I'm a McCarthy guy. I am. I wanted New England to pick him. I was a big New England pick Harrison early and then McCarthy later. Like I was hoping McCarthy either trade up in the latter half of the first round and pick him, or get him at the early second if he fell. But I'm a McCarthy guy. I think he's going to be a really good NFL quarterback, and I'm going to kind of I'll die on that hill until I see otherwise. But I like Minnesota. They had to get somebody, or otherwise you lose Jefferson. Yeah. I think Jefferson made it very clear that I want to see what the quarterback situation is going to be like before I sign a contract extension. So,
but Flash, here's my thing. Do they have the type of veteran quarterback that McCarthy can sit and learn from? It doesn't have to be a big name quarterback, but at least a solid starter that McCarthy can just sit back, learn as much as he can as possible. Because Kansas City, I'm not saying that J.J. McCarthy is not going to be Patrick Mahomes, but with Patrick Mahomes with the Chiefs, you had a plan. You had a veteran quarterback in Alex Smith, smart quarterback, made a couple of Pro Bowl appearances. Patrick Mahomes sat for a year, and ultimately he learned the offense. And, of course, he had a brilliant offensive mind in Andy Reid, and then ultimately he had talent. I think for McCarthy to work in Minnesota, you got to have a plan. I think, and there's nothing wrong with sitting a young quarterback. All this stuff about rushing a quarterback, well, because you draft him so high, you start him right away. Look, Jordan Love, who's now one of the young ascending quarterbacks in the NFL, he sat for 3 years behind Aaron Rodgers. Same way Aaron Rodgers sat for 3 years behind Brett Favre. I'm not saying that they're going to be these types of quarterbacks. All I'm saying is there's nothing wrong with sitting and learning. It's not your time just yet. Like if you just sit, learn, understand the offense as much as possible, and then eventually when your number is called, then it is what it is. I just hope that it works out for JJ McCarthy. But with Miami, if Tua has another good Pro Bowl caliber season, should the Dolphins, at some point you're gonna have to do something. You're gonna have to pay. Either you pay him, or if you're not gonna pay him, you're gonna have to move into a different direction. Because you have to factor his durability, history, and who else in the draft. Now, in 2025, some good quarterbacks. Shedeur Sanders from Colorado. You got Georgia's Carson Beck. You got Texas's Quinn Ewers. Some of these guys they're going to be in the discussion for the Heisman. So, what do you think about it, Flash?
The funny is I'm not a Tua guy. I was before the hip injury. And I need to see him. You need to be able to go into Buffalo or Kansas City and pull out a game when it's 10 below. And it just is what it is. Or to Baltimore or Cleveland or Pittsburgh or wherever. Like, you can't just hope and pray every year you're in Miami. And I don't think he can do it. I just don't. When I watch him play, he just reminds me of a stat guy. Like, he's he's the really good basketball player on a bad team, even though this isn't a bad team. But it's just like he puts up the stats, but it's like when it comes down to it, can you go into Baltimore and win when it's cold? Can you go into Buffalo when it's cold? And I don't know if he can do that. That was the thing with Manning for years. Well, he can't win in New England. We got to make, we got to make sure he's under the dome for it. That was the big knock on Manning. Well, as long as he's got to go to New England, he's never going to get to a title. And technically that was right, because the first title he had to make, they were in Indy. So I just, it always scares me when a quarterback can't go into adverse climates and win, because that's playoff football and down the stretch football. And that's why I'm not a Tua guy. Now, what you do, I don't know. I depending on the draft capital they have and the things that they're able and willing to do, 2025 ain't that bad of an idea to go trade up and get a quarterback.
Yeah, and if they have to make a serious decision, because again, you look at the New York Giants, I bet they regret to this day they made the mistake with Daniel Jones. They're paying him $40 million per year. And Daniel Jones, after having a good season in 2022, made the playoffs, won a playoff game. But Tua, is he the guy going forward for you, BRF?
If he takes a step back, you have to kind of consider all of your options. Now, if he puts up another year like he did last year, you're kind of like, okay, he went into Kansas City, he couldn't win, but yet he was one of the big reasons why we were a playoff team. He put up really good numbers, so it's like, what do you do if he puts up really, really big numbers? Like, I don't know. It's one of those where you're like kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. If he puts up another really, really good year, and let's say you don't get far into playoffs, it's like what do you do? Do you? It's tough. It's really tough. I feel if I'm Miami, I let it play out and see what he does. I do think the quarterback class next year, 2025, is definitely. I feel like it's definitely deeper and it's going to be better than what this year's was. Because I mean, you got Sanders, you got Ewers, you got Beck. I think Dylan Gabriel will be in this class this year.
Yeah.
I mean, you got So I mean, you got you're gonna have guys coming up in 2025. So I think it's all on Tua, because I don't want to sit here and say, yeah, no, he'd be the guy, because it's kind of like you don't know. I don't know. I just feel like nowadays in this day and age in the National Football League, you don't always want to just like try to, unless your quarterback is just trash and god awful, like Desmond Ridder awful. Like you don't want to just up and just kick him to the curb just because. I mean, he has to show you he doesn't want to be there. Like he has to just play awful. He got to show you he don't want to be there. Like if Tua puts up another 2023, I mean, you can't you don't want to just kick that to the curb. So
No,
they're in a yeah.
I agree. I'm Mr. Not make a drastic decision type guy.
Yeah, exactly.
I am that guy. I've always been that guy. I just like, and I just need him. Truthfully, it's not that I don't even need him to really win in Buffalo or Kansas City this year. Just go and play well.
Yeah.
Just go and play well. Go like you go into Buffalo and go toe to toe with Josh Allen in Buffalo when it's like 15 degrees out, and let me see that you got the, for lack of a better term, cojones to go in there and it's cold, but suck it up and play your game. So that's my thing. Just show that you can do that. Just to show you can play in that. Then I'm like, okay, because it seems like a real picky thing to like go like, well, you just win, but man, you look at the top teams in the AFC in general, and they're all cold weather teams.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, like unless you can go get an actual top flight guy in the draft, and I'm talking about top flight, because let's no mistake, like Tua before the hip injury was probably going to be the number 1 overall draft pick.
Had it not been for that Georgia game in the SEC championship back in 2018, he would have won the Heisman.
Yep.
Not Kyler.
Yep. So, he's another year away from the hip injury. Maybe that helps. Maybe that like kind of, because he's nowhere near as athletic as he used to be.
Right.
Like nowhere near. Like he wasn't, because that dude could run when he was
young Tua in his days in Alabama, especially his first year as a starter before the injuries. Oh, he can move a little bit.
He was the scariest. He was the scariest offensive player in college football, in my opinion.
Oh, he was absolutely.
Yep.
So I'm not a Tua guy, but I'm rooting for him because that hip injury was horrific. So I'm hoping he succeeds. Well, okay, I am, but I'm not, because I'm a Patriots fan and I don't want to see the Dolphins succeed at all. But you know what I'm saying? Like I'm not going to hate on the dude if he succeeds, because I hope he does. But it's one of those. It's still a question mark. It is, and I don't even think I don't think it's a bad question to ask. I think it's legit. I think it's a little bit of like, where are they in this? How good are they? Like, what, or how good is he? Can he win? In all these places. So I'm curious to see. I don't know. I love the team. I love Mike McDaniels as their coach. Like, he's entertaining as hell to watch. I loved him on Hard Knocks. I love his style of coaching. So I just, so I'm kind of rooting for them in that aspect, but I think it's a legit question. We're going to see if he can win.
I'll add one more real quick thing. He's got it. Yeah, I agree with Flash. You can go out there and you can put up these gigantic numbers against the bad teams. You gotta go over. I feel like if he goes out there and he just lays an egg in all of the big games, then I feel like it's a foregone conclusion. You got to weigh all your options. If he goes out there, even if he doesn't win all the big games, if he goes out there and shows up and still puts up really good numbers for the season, then you kind of have to look at it like, well, okay, do we just keep him and build it? Do we just keep him and try to build the defense better to keep him to get him back on the field as many times as possible? So I agree with Flash. I feel like the big games are gonna make and break what the Miami Dolphins do as far as Tua.
Mm-hmm. Basically, is he the new Kirk Cousins? Puts up the big numbers, but
I mean, Kirk Cousins is known for putting up numbers, and he's known for getting paid. Yeah.
So I mean, Tua will get paid, but is he going to win anything? That's the biggest thing that's been the
Probably
thing with.
Not. No, given his durability history and late down in the season, no. If Tua wants to make a very valid case, he's going to have to go back to the playoffs, in a tough environment, play outstanding. If he plays outstanding and wins, which is icing on the cake, maybe, who knows, you can actually have a discussion. And he also has to stay healthy as well, because injuries has been a huge question mark with Tua. But we all agree, it's unanimous. We taking Tyreek Hill as far as the best wide receiver, as far as for 2024, over Justin Jefferson. Although we still believe Justin Jefferson is still going to be great.